Merry Christmas and God bless us, everyone. Yes, I'm probably not the Tiny Tim that you had in mind, but hopefully you took a moment to look at that 3-minute video from one of the many versions of Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, The Muppet Christmas Carol. Yeah, a bit of fun. I do. I watch it. I start watching Christmas Carol in any form. I love the story. It's my favorite story. Um, Not just because, of course, the thing, but actually also because it's a depiction of England in the Industrial Revolution. It is a romantic story, Romanticism exemplified. And yeah, at the end, I just feel all warm and warmy inside. But yeah, and so today we're going to finish. Let's think. Today we're going to finish this unit on Romanticism. We will not have class tomorrow, which is on Wednesday. Today is Tuesday, December the 15th. We don't have class tomorrow, December 16th. Thursday, you have your writing assignment, which I promise not to grade until it'll be sometime late in the Christmas vacation, because you see my computer at home. I love it. It's a Mac, but it's getting very slow. And so I've made an appointment to have my computer cleaned up and things like that. So I probably won't be getting around to grading your test for quite some time unless I come here to school and do it. And over Christmas break, yeah, I've seen enough. I love raw. But unlike you, I have spent more than enough time here this fall. So hopefully you will return in January. And now on Friday, though, we will have this test on Napoleon and Romanticism. Yeah, and that's what we'll do Friday, and take us out. And the next year we'll begin with something else. Basically, the Europe of the post Congress of Vienna era, but that's not to think about now. I just want to finish this, and so let's finish it, shall we? Mm-hmm. There we are. Yeah. Romantic literature came to be known as that which did not follow the classical forms and that gives free play to the imagination. I mean, A Christmas Carol is a story that, yeah, very imaginative. Three ghosts. Remember, A Christmas Carol is, at its very heart, a ghost story. I mean, before Santa Claus and all that kind of business, before Santa Claus, people would sit around at Christmas and tell ghost stories of all things. Fact of the matter is, Christmas, as far as being the big holiday, even in the United States, Christmas didn't become the big holiday until about the 1950s. New Year's was the big holiday. Then came along the 1950s and toys and, buying gifts and prosperity. And so, yeah. According to August Wilhelm von Schlegel, Romantic literature is to the old classical literature as is the biology is to the mechanical. Mechanical works one way over and over again. Biological is free form. The Romantic period peaked in Germany and Britain before it became a major force in France. English Romantics believed that poetry was free to flow following the creative impulses of the mind. Samuel Taylor Coleridge and William Blake felt that the artist's imagination was God at work. Blake felt that it was a tragedy, and I always have trouble with tragedy, misspelling it. Tragedy that so much of the world could perceive no innocence or beauty in it. Meaning that he thought it was a tragedy that the world had grown so cold that it didn't take the time to enjoy, didn't take the time to Just smell the roses. Yes. Uh, and perceive the innocence or beauty in the world, such as with the Wander Above the Mist. But the painting Wander Above the Mist I showed you the other day, where the gentleman is walking and he just stops to look down at the valley. See, that's what it means. Samuel Taylor Coleridge wrote Rime of the Ancient Mariner, and that's a poem that I had to read my senior year in high school. It's pretty long. But in essence, Rime of the Ancient Mariner has these sailors who are on a ship, shipwrecks, they're on a lifeboat, and they're caught out at sea. And one of the sailors kills an albatross, and to eat something. But the other sailors castigate him because killing an albatross was considered bad luck. And so instead of consuming the albatross, the sailor had to wear the albatross around his neck as a symbol of his bad luck, which gives rise to the term to bear an albatross. William Wordsworth was Coleridge's closest friend. Wordsworth believed that children were closest to nature, just like Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and had not been corrupted by society. Lord Byron had very few friends, even amongst the Romantics, except for Percy Shelley and Mary Shelley. Outside of England, however, he was the embodiment of the new person of the French Revolution. He was skeptical and mocking even of his own belief. He wrote Childe Harold's Pilgrimage and Don Juan, and then, like I said, Lord Byron, Percy Shelley, and Mary Shelley, they went and rented out a flat in Italy, an apartment, and they lived together and spent all their time drinking alcohol, writing, and sitting up late at night telling each other scary stories to see who could come up with the scariest one. And Lord Byron was always the one who would be run screaming from the room. And that is also where Mary Shelley came up with Frankenstein, the romantic novel. Almost all German romantics wrote at least one novel. Romantic novels were highly sentimental, like Christmas Carol, and borrowed material from their medieval romances. Purely realistic descriptions were avoided because they're boring. Peter Schlegel wrote Lucien, who was a perfect friend and lover and companion of the hero. It discussed, frankly, sexual activity and the equality of men and women. Now, here we go. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe defies easy classification. He wrote The Sorrows of Young Werther. And Sorrows of Young Werther was about this guy. It actually, frankly, discusses homosexuality and living outside the bounds of polite society in 19th century Europe. And yes, it is erotic in nature. Later on, he became moralistic and wrote his most famous book, Faust. Faust is an interesting story. It's been retold several times. But in Faust, this guy, a doctor, Dr. Faust, who's bored with his life and wants this and wants that, well, he's approached by Satan and cuts a deal for his very soul. And here's the terms of the deal. So Satan tells this guy, says, look, for your soul, you can have whatever you want. You want the woman who lives next door, the neighbor, which he did, but her mother hated him. But Satan says, you can have him. And here's the catch. So if Faust ever got to a point where he was satisfied, wanting everything, getting anything he wanted, if he ever got to a point where he was satisfied, then Satan comes to collect his soul and his life. And so this guy, Faust, yes, he wants riches, this, and fame, that, and yes, he eventually gets around to wanting and desiring and capturing the woman next door. But like I said, the woman, her mother, hated him. And so Satan, being Satan, arranges for this woman to meet death. The problem is, though, Faust's girlfriend, the woman he wants, is accused of her mother. And by the way, at this time Faust has impregnated her. And the woman is in prison, awaiting her own execution. And it's an interesting twist in the story that Faust, along with Mephistopheles, who is one of the minions of Satan, Faust and Mephistopheles break into the prison because, after all, it's Satan, right? And they offer, I can't remember her name, Esmeralda, that's not it. But they offer the woman, hey, escape, you can come with us. The woman refuses to go with him, thereby condemning her own life and the life of a child, and yet saving both of their souls by not agreeing to go with Satan. And yeah, Faust 2, which never gets the attention of Faust 1, sees Faust dedicate his life to the improvement of mankind. Goethe, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, was trying to show the folly of completely abandoning Christianity. Romantic religious thinkers appeal to the inner emotions of humankind for the foundations of religion. Methodism, that means being a Methodist, originated in England and was a reaction against deism and the nationalism of the Church of England. John Wesley was the founder of Methodism. He could not preach from Anglican pulpits, and he and his brother, Charles Wesley, began to organize Methodist society. True Christians are those who are saved in this world from all sin, from all unrighteousness, and now, in such a perfect sense, freed from evil, thoughts and evil tempers. Methodists, and I don't know if you've ever been to a Methodist church service before, emphasize the role of emotions in service. Hallelujah. Yes, emotion. Once again, it's the Romantic period. Now, after the Thermidorian reaction, there was a great revival in the Roman Catholic Church all across Europe. The Genius of Christianity by Viscount Francois René de Chateaubriand argued that the essence of religion was passion. Francis Schleiermacher, in speeches on religion to its cultured despisers, which was a response to Lutheran orthodoxy on the one hand and Enlightenment and rationalism on the other. Schleiermacher condemned Christianity as the religion as the religion of religions. The essence of Romanticism was the glorification of individuals and cultures. Now we're getting into philosophy of the Romantics. German philosopher J.G. Fichte felt that the world is truly the creations of its humankind. The world is as it is, he said, because especially strong persons conceive of it in a particular way and impose their wills on the world and on other people. The role of the hero. Napoleon served as an example of a great person for the time. Historical perspectives were also influenced by Romantic thought. Johann Gottfried Herder. Oh, you notice the number of Germans that take part in the Romantic movement. For example, the Brothers Grimm. The Brothers Grimm. They're Romantic writers. What do they write about? Well, they write about fairy tales. Anyway, Johann Gottfried Herder, on the knowledge and feelings of the human soul, he saw human beings developing organically like plants in different stages of growth at different times. His most famous followers were the Grimm brothers. Brothers Grimm. Grimm's fairy tales. You know, the Grimm's brothers did not write Grimm's fairy tales. They collected them. And Grimm's fairy tales actually originate in the Middle Ages. People would sit around at night, nothing to do. They would tell each other stories. But in their original form, including when the brothers Grimm, collected them, they weren't fit for children. Yeah, they would be rated R. definitely R. And R for violence, R for sex. I mean, in all of the fairy tales where, like, for example, Snow White being kissed by, Prince Charming, or Little Red Riding Hood being rescued by the huntsman, in all of them, in the end, the reward of the male figure is not a kiss, it's full on sex. Yeah. Herder opposed the use of common language and preferred the uniqueness of culture. The most important Romantic philosopher in history was George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Hegel believed that ideas evolve in an evolutionary fashion, which he termed the thesis. He's talking about history now. The thesis is challenged by opposing ideas called the antithesis. Antithesis. One of the most significant philosophical conclusions followed from this analysis was that all periods of history were of equal value as they all contributed to the ones that followed them. So, in other words, saying that the classical period of history of Greece and Rome is more valuable than any other period to that point, he doesn't buy that. He wrote Phenomenology of the Mind and lectures on philosophy of history. Yeah, you won't see too much of that on your final exam. But, and so that ends us. That ends us for Romanticism. And we will have this test on Friday. And yeah, and Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. And you should watch Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol of some kind, or Tale of Two Cities. Yeah. I wish that there needs to be a bit more modern form of Tale of Two Cities, but actually, if you look on YouTube, you can watch the whole thing on YouTube. Anyway, I've got to go. Thank you.